Thanks for checking out this episode of The Rookie Big Board. If you enjoy it, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'm definitely going to want to see some comments on this video. This is a special episode. It's going to be a fun episode of the Rookie Big Board. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing my own unique approach to previewing all 40 bowl games. I'm doing all 40 bowl games, not counting the college football playoffs, because there's going to be plenty of analysis on that. Listen, I'm going to do this in a fun way. I am going to provide some analysis, but I'm going to be honest, I'm having some fun with this episode. So here's what we're going to do. I have ranked all 40 bowl games from the least watchable to the most watchable, and we're going to fire through all 40. Along the way, I will give you some analysis. I'm going to give you at least one player to watch from each team in all 40 bowl games. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Number 40 on the list is the Frisco Classic, the least watchable bowl game. It's going to be North Texas at 6-6 versus Miami, Ohio at 6-6. Miami of Ohio has Jack Sorensen, the wide receiver, has 69 receptions for 10 touchdowns. Be honed in on him catching balls from Drew Plitt. And then for North Texas, it's DeAndre Torrey, 1,214 yards, 13 touchdowns. Number one reason this is the least watchable bowl game, in my totally biased opinion, is that North Texas handed the UTSA Roadrunners their only loss of the season to become bowl eligible, and I'm still salty about it. So this is game number 40. Game number 39 is the Bahamas Bowls. First and foremost, if you're watching the video version of this episode, an absolutely horrible logo despite a beautiful location. I also don't want to watch it because I don't want to see other people enjoying the Bahamas, and I'm not. It's going to be 6-6 Middle Tennessee versus 7-5 Toledo. Jaron Pierce of Middle Tennessee is second in Conference USA in receptions, fifth in receiving yards. He's going to be the wide receiver to watch. And Bryant Koback, 1,281 yards on 190 attempts and 15 touchdowns. He's going to be the player to watch from Toledo. By the way, as I'm going through all of these, keep in mind that players may choose to opt out. I'm recording this early on, so I may have missed an opt-out or an injury. Breaking news. All right, coming up here is the Hawaii Bowl. It's coming in at number 38 because I'm annoyed that they make Hawaii play in the Hawaii Bowl. That's just a normal game for them. That's not even fun. It is fun for Memphis. 6-6 Memphis will play 6-7 Hawaii. Memphis, it's going to be Calvin Austin the 30s on my top wide receivers episode. He's a blast to watch play. He's really fun. 74 receptions, 1,049 yards, 8 touchdowns. And then for Hawaii, it's Calvin Turner, the running back / wide receiver hybrid player, has over 1,100 all-purpose yards. Next one coming up here is the Camellia Bowl. I think I pronounced that flower correctly. It's 6-6 Ball State versus 7-5 Georgia State. Justin Hall is the Ball State player to watch. 61 receptions, 613 yards, 5 touchdowns. And Tucker Gregg, 2 first names, so really solid player there. 899, 9 touchdowns, and really only played in 9 games. He's had limited snaps in some other games. So coming in at 37 is that generally less than desirable bowl game. Coming in here next, the Arizona Bowl. I don't love the logo here. 8-4 Central Michigan versus 7-5 Boise State. Listen, Lou Nichols is the player to watch for Central Michigan. Over 2,000 yards, 2,008 yards. He leads in scrimmage yards, leads the country in scrimmage yards. Then George Haloney, the running back, had trouble staying healthy for Boise State, but he has 300-plus games in his last 4. So George Haloney is going to be the guy to watch there for Boise State. Next up is the Lending Tree Bowl, another just generally basic logo. This is just the Mobile skyline with the Lending Tree logo slightly tucked underneath it. Eastern Michigan 7-5 versus Liberty 7-5. Ben Bryant for Eastern Michigan, the quarterback, has a 68% completion rate, 14-6 touchdown ratio. I guess that's who you're watching. And then obviously for Liberty, it's Malik Willis, as long as he doesn't opt out. If he does opt out, I don't know. Watch somebody. I can't tell you. This is going to be an interesting one here. This is the Armed Forces Bowl. We're up to number 34 on the ranking here. It's 8-3 Army versus 6-6 Missouri. I think it is just going to be 200% running, 100% on both of these offenses. They're just going to run the ball. Army is 8-3. Christian Anderson is their dual threat quarterback. I'm putting the over-under on 10.5 passing attempts, because most games this season, Army has thrown the ball just about 10 times. So if you're looking for an over-under there, you're trying to get some action on the Armed Forces Bowl, I'm laying that line. Feel free to play it with your friends. And then Tyler Beatty has over 1,600 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. By the end of the season, Missouri decided that their game plan was just to run Tyler Beatty until they could not run Tyler Beatty anymore. So I'm telling you, I'm serious here, 75-80% plus rushing in this game. It's going to be over in like an hour and a half. All right, coming up next here is going to be the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. It's 7-5 Marshall versus 12-1 Louisiana. Again, very annoyed that Louisiana got stuck in the New Orleans Bowl, but I get it, their fans are close. For Marshall, it's Rashina Lee. I know Grant Wells is back, but looking at Rashina Lee, over 1,200 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns, a college fantasy football dream, so you got to reward him with the spotlight here. For Louisiana, it's Levi Lewis, 2,647 passing yards, 19 touchdowns. On the ground, he has 269 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. So an interesting set of players there, group of 5 matchup. Of course, Louisiana coming off a 12-1 season and losing their head coach, so we're going to be looking to finish strong here. How about the New Mexico Bowl here? I do like this logo, but I'm pretty sure they just slapped the state flag onto a football and called it a logo. Nonetheless, the UTEP Miners, who nobody would have expected to go bowling this year, at 7-5, are going to take on a really good Fresno State team, who of course did lose Jake Haener and the head coach, whose name is escaping my mind right now. He's headed off to Washington. Jacob Cowing, 67 receptions, 1,330 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Another big CFF guy. And how about Ronnie Rivers, his last hurrah here, 788 yards, 5 touchdowns, 34 receptions, 364. Man, Ronnie Rivers has been showing up for college football here and college fantasy football for a long time, so you got to give him the shout out here. Coming in at number 31, which, by the way, everybody I just listed off 4 through 32, that's my bottom tier. That's my generally unwatchable tier, but I will watch every game. Coming in here in this second to bottom tier, it's going to be the Cure Bowl. Coming in here, it is your MAC champion NIU Huskies taking on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I think this is a big game, man. We got the MAC champions and we got a group of 5 darling here over the last couple years. For Northern Illinois, it's Rocky Lombardi's coming hot off that MAC title where he went a solid 7 for 15 passing the ball, but he did have 3 rushing touchdowns. So let's see what the heck they do with Rocky Lombardi in this game. And then Grayson McCall is back in action. He's 38 for 51 with 6 touchdowns since coming back from that injury. So you got to be excited about that. Coming up next year is the Independence Bowl. It's number 30 on the rankings list. It's BYU versus UAB. First and foremost, BYU got absolutely robbed. 10-2, that's a good team. Getting matched up against 8-4 UAB. I don't know if this is just a slight. They lose out because they're not in a conference. I know that seems to be a consistent issue, but man, they deserve better than UAB. I'm going with Jaron Hall. I'm not even going to throw any stats at you. I'm just going to tell you he's a really fun gunslinger. Anytime I flip on BYU, I love watching Jaron Hall just huck that ball around. And for Alabama Birmingham, it will be Dwayne McBride, 177 attempts. He's got over 1,100 yards, doing that in 12 touchdowns. All right, next up is the LA Bowl, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a brand new bowl this year. It's 10-3 Utah State versus 7-5 Oregon State. For Utah State's quarterback Logan Bonner, over 3,500 passing yards and 36 touchdowns. Good touchdown-interception ratio. That's who you should be watching for there with the Aggies. I got to tell you, this is a good Oregon State team. They've had some great wins this year. 7 wins is probably more than most folks expected them to be, and I think they're actually better than those 7 wins indicate. B.J. Baylor, 1,179 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, a running back there for Oregon State. Coming up next is the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Here's a big one. I'm excited about this. It's 6-6 Tulsa versus 6-6 Old Dominion. 2 teams that barely slid into here, and they get rewarded by going to a fantastic winter destination in Myrtle Beach. The reason that I bumped them up to 28. It's ODU's first ever bowl game. The program is not that old. They canceled their entire season last year because of COVID. They're able to come out and be bowl eligible. I believe they ripped off 5 wins to finish the season and become bowl eligible. They get 28 just for that. Tulsa, don't even bother, but they're going to get creamed here because Old Dominion's going to come out. I have no idea what the line is, but I would love to see Old Dominion get their first bowl win as well. Shamari Brooks, 922 yards, 8 touchdowns. Blake Watson, 1039 and 8 touchdowns. By the way, before we jump into bowl number 27, I forgot to mention, I want to hear your reactions to these rankings. Which bowls are too high? Which bowls are too low? Absolutely let me know, because this is tremendously biased list here, but we're having some fun with it here. Moving on to it, it's number 27, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix. First off, horrible name, absolutely terrible name, but it's very boring. I had no idea it was in Phoenix until I looked it up. It's Minnesota at 8-4 versus West Virginia at 6-6. I'm gonna go with Tanner Morgan for Minnesota just because I like watching Tanner Morgan play. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I like him as a manager of an offense. And then how about Letty Brown, the running back? 1,065 yards and 13 touchdowns for West Virginia this year. So a great season there for him on the ground. How about the Gasparilla Bowl? Think about if the Gasparilla Bowl happened almost any other season and we got to see UCF take on UF. That would be really fun. I hope for Florida 6-6. I hope it's Anthony Richardson. Florida just slid into being bowl eligible. They need Anthony Richardson to be something. We got the new coaching staff coming in here. So let's see Anthony Richardson just try to go in there and light it up, have a good day. And then for UCF, I'm giving a shout out to my man Ryan O'Keefe because I slid Ryan O'Keefe in at basically minimum salary almost every game this season for college football DFS, and he rarely disappointed. 77 receptions for 726 yards, 6 touchdowns. The Gasparilla Bowl comes in at number 26. Top 25, we made it. It's the Texas Bowl happening in Houston. 7-5 Kansas State versus 6-6 LSU. I gotta be honest, this is mostly a Kansas State argument here. Deuce Vaughn is fun to watch. 1246 on the ground, 15 touchdowns, another 47 receptions for 471 yards. Skylar Thompson, the dual threat quarterback, is a ton of fun to watch as well for the Wildcats. LSU, I got nothing, man. I got nobody. Pass on the LSU offense. I found out today, I looked up the stats. Kayshon Boutte led them this season in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. Kayshon Boutte got injured in week 6 of the season, and he led this LSU offense in receiving yards and touchdowns. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's move on here to the Las Vegas Bowl. It's Wisconsin versus Arizona State. I think this is a fun one. Braylon Allen shredding it up, kind of being the hero of the college football season at the very end. Prototypical big Wisconsin running back. I cannot wait to see him absolutely tear it up. And if you flip it on here to the other side of this, Jaden Daniels is a guy I was high on. He's kind of been down bad. So on the national spotlight, I want to see him put it all together, have a really great final game. I know a lot of pieces are transferring out of Arizona State, so it might be chaos. Wisconsin might come out and play big, but that's the end of the second tier, all right? We're moving, or the second to last tier here. I have 5 total tiers, so that's tier 4. Let's move into tier 3. These are the really solid games. I got to come in. I got to throw in my Tennessee Volunteers. Now, you'll notice I'm not that biased here. It's Tennessee versus Purdue. It's not the flashiest matchup. If David Bell plays, you have to watch David Bell because he is going to be an absolutely undervalued, underrated rookie here coming up in your dynasty draft, so you got to watch David Bell. For Tennessee, I could say Hendon Hooker. There's a lot of guys that I could throw out there. How about Cedric Tillman flying under the radar? 57 receptions, 931 yards, 9 touchdowns. I will say I'm very annoyed that the Vols got the Music City Bowl because Tennessee is always annoyed they get the Music City Bowl. They don't like it. It's not that fun. We're playing in Nashville. We're so close to Nashville already. Our fans will travel. We don't need the close location. So it's getting bumped down to 23 because I'm annoyed we're in the Music City Bowl. I was going to travel if we got the South Carolina or North Carolina Bowl, but I'm not going to Nashville. All right. Citrus Bowl here coming in. Iowa at 10-3 versus Kentucky at 9-3. You may be saying, wow, those are 2 highly rated teams, Matt, for you to throw all the way down here at 22. This is going to be a boring, slow game, all right? Iowa's going to slow it down, make it boring. Tyler Goodson is the player to watch here. 250 yards, or 256 attempts on the ground for 1,151 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. And then it will be the Wan'Dale Robinson show as long as he does not opt out, and Will Levis hucking the ball around, having some fun for Kentucky. But Iowa's got a good defense, and they're probably going to keep them pretty intact. So we're looking at a really low-scoring game. I think it's going to end up actually being a pretty boring one. I'll tell you which one's not going to be that boring, though. It's going to be the First Responder Bowl. Now, this is happening in University Park, Texas here. 6-6 Louisville is taking on 9-3 Air Force. And every now and then, you get these bowl matchups where you're like, you really had fun. Like, you nailed this bowl matchup. And I really think they did. I think they nailed it here with this Louisville versus Air Force Bowl matchup. Because we're talking about Louisville, it's the Fighting Malik Cunninghams, okay? This dual threat running quarterback, he is the offense. And he's going to run it a ton, and Louisville's going to run it a ton. And then Air Force is literally going to run it a ton. Air Force does not need to throw the ball to win games. They have literally proven that this season. So the player to watch is going to be the quarterback, Zeke Daniels, because I'm putting the over-under on him of 5 passing attempts, and he's probably going to hit the under. This is going to be a ridiculous game to watch, and you better believe I'm going to be watching the First Responder Bowl. All right, coming in at number 20 is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, which I got to tell you is... It's something. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a fun game. Coming in at 20, it's Texas Tech at 6-6 versus Mississippi State at 7-5, which again is a matching up of high-powered schemes. I really like it. It's going to be a fun one. I'm going to go with Eric Azukanama, underrated draft prospect if he declares. 48 receptions, 705 yards, 4 touchdowns, big body wideout. I hope he doesn't declare, and I hope Quinn Ewers does go to Texas, matches up with the new offensive coordinator coming over from Western Kentucky, because this guy could absolutely light up the college football world next season if he does get matched up in that scenario. And then how about Will Rogers? For Mississippi State, the quarterback has thrown the ball 630 times in Mike Leach's air raid offense. It's completed 75% of 630 completions. 35 touchdowns. Lights out. We're not talking enough. I know he's playing in the air raid system and those numbers are going to be inflated, but that is still extremely successful for Will Rogers, which some folks didn't expect to win out the starting job going into the season. I definitely did, though. Moving on here to the Military Bowl, number 19. Actually debating whether or not I want to go to this. I'm kind of in my backyard here in Annapolis. 7-5 ECU taking on 6-6 Boston College. I guess I have to pick Ehlers for ECU. I don't know, 3,100 passing yards, 199 yards on the ground, 26 total touchdowns. He's kind of a dual threat guy. For Boston College, it's future first-round pick Phil Dracovic. If you haven't watched him play, I'm telling you, he really does have everything it takes to develop into a first-round NFL draft pick. I think he would have been in that conversation this year had it not been for the injury, but he's back and he's healthy, and I kind of want to go see him play in person, so I'm debating getting a ticket to this game. Coming in at number 18, it's the Outback Bowl. I gotta tell you, it's 7-5 Penn State versus 8-4 Arkansas. Treylon Burks might opt out. I don't know if Jahan Dotson is opting out. The Outback Bowl comes in at number 18 because we're either getting free coconut shrimp or we're getting free what's the other? Bloomin' Onion, all right? And if you're not Team Bloomin' Onion, you got to get off this channel, all right? First and foremost, I mean, you can comment if you're a coconut shrimp person, but please get off this channel because we always root for the Bloomin' Onion when it comes to the Outback Bowl. 7-5 Penn State. The player to watch is Jahan Dotson if he doesn't opt out. The player to watch if Jahan Dotson does opt out is anybody but Sean Clifford because, my goodness, get this guy off the field. I'm sick of watching him in college football. For Arkansas, it's quarterback KJ Jefferson. I like KJ Jefferson. I think he has the opportunity to really develop this offseason and take a huge leap in Devy value and future NFL draft stock. So KJ Jefferson, if you get the opportunity to watch him, that's what you're really going to want to hone in on here in this Arkansas game. All right, coming up next at number 17 is the Fenway Bowl because I think the college football games that they play in baseball stadiums are really cool here. 6-6 Virginia and Bronco Mendenhall's final game with the team versus 8-4 SMU. You know I love the Ponies. Brendan Armstrong does not get enough credit for what he has been able to do for this team. He has 4,444 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and another 256 rushing attempts and 9 touchdowns on the ground. He is the Virginia offense. And then if you look to the other side, we love SMU. They have one of my favorite uniforms. You know they're going to be rocking those clean uniforms. How about Tanner Mordecai? 67% of 454 passes completed, 39 touchdowns, 3,628 yards. Moving on here to the Pinstripe Bowl, which honestly is probably not as good of a matchup. However, it's at Yankee Stadium, and so I had to rank it above the Fenway game. So coming in at number 16 is going to be the Pinstripe Bowl. I flirted with going to this one as well. Have not been sold on it. For Virginia Tech, absolutely nothing. I guess you have to pick Braxton Burmeister, but that's really what's boring about this matchup. For Maryland, there's still some options. It's going to be probably Rakeem Jarrett, though. That's probably going to be the guy you watch. And, of course, Talia Tagovailoa, I apologize, is going to be the quarterback to watch. Anytime you can get those two to click and connect, it can be a fun offensive experience. How about number 15, the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit? I know, everybody's favorite bowl, the Quick Lane Bowl, coming in at December 27th. Everybody's going to be sitting down at 11 a.m. in front of their TV screens. They've got their appetizers. They got all their friends around them to watch the Quick Lane Bowl out of Detroit because it is Western Michigan versus Nevada. How about the battle of potential day 3 quarterbacks with significant upside here in this year's draft? It's Caleb Ellaby for Western Michigan, 222 for 349 this season for 3,115 passing yards. And how about Carson Strong? I'm asking you specifically to watch his good knee because I don't think he has one, but still 523 passing attempts this year, 70%, 4,186 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Had some great conversations this week about Carson Strong's arm talent. I think he could really profile to be an underrated future draft pick. So if you have the opportunity to watch these guys, these are two quarterbacks who could probably go day 3. Carson Strong might sneak into day 2 and have some long-term NFL upside. Speaking of quarterbacks here that are going to go in this year's NFL draft with some long-term upside, how about the Boca Raton Bowl? I know, everybody's favorite bowl, but I'm putting it in here because 8-5 Western Michigan is taking on 10-3 Appalachian State. That's right, it's Bailey Zappi. He had to be up there. 69% of 640 passing attempts, 5,544 passing yards this season, 56 touchdowns. Senior Bowl invitee Bailey Zappi, you absolutely love to see it. A 0-star recruit who transferred in from the FCS this past year. Absolutely fantastic. App State at 10-3. I'm a little confused, I gotta be honest. I'm not tracking App State, but it seems like Cameron Peoples has kind of lost his workload. I don't know if it's injury related or if they like the other running back better, but I really like watching Cameron Peoples run the ball, so I'm still lighting him. Honestly, as long as you don't pay attention to Chase Bryce, you're probably going to have a good experience watching the Boca Raton Bowl. How about the CheezIT Bowl? All right, I remember the CheezIT Bowl was one of the first real sponsors to be a buyout, and everyone was like, this is ridiculous, and then we've just totally leaned into it. Coming in at number 13, yes, we're at 13. We are still on tier 3. This is a big tier here at bowl games. Clemson at 9-3 is playing Iowa State at 7-5. For Clemson, it's Will Shipley, absolutely super talented guy. He's going to probably be a first-round Devy selection in most of your drafts this offseason. Future NFL potential first-rounder, dual-threat type running back, true freshman, playing really well since coming on later in the season. A lot of reason to be excited about Will Shipley. How about an Iowa State? We're going to watch the shell of former first-round Brock Purdy hype. That's what we're going to be watching in this game because that was a real thing. People were out here trying to hype up Brock Purdy as a first-rounder. And we're going to watch Brock Purdy probably throw 4 interceptions this game. So I'm putting the Brock Purdy interception over-under at 3.5. And by the way, I'm taking the over on that. How about coming in the last one here, the top of tier 3? It's got to be the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. And I don't care who is playing in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, but they have to be a game to watch because they get into those potatoes, man. They got the potato mascot, the weird potato running around, and then they also have the trophy is just a bunch of potatoes in a glass bowl. I mean, how could you not be excited to watch the famous Idaho Potato Bowl? All right, so but what's even more exciting is Kent State is in it, and we stand for Kent State here on this channel, especially Dustin Crum. 64% of his 355 passes have been completions for 2,900 yards, 16 passing touchdowns, another 662 rushing yards, and 11 touchdowns. Another guy who could sneak into the NFL draft conversation this year. And how about on the other side? They're playing 6-6 Wyoming. And I got to tell you, I got to be honest, you know I'm big about my uniforms. I kind of like Wyoming's color. I don't know why brown and yellow works for Wyoming, but I like their logo a ton. Xavier Valladay, 190 for 984, 5 touchdowns on the ground, 23 receptions for 233 yards. The running back for Wyoming, Xavier Valladay, finishing out his CFF college fantasy football heroic run here. All right, we're in tier 2 here. We're in tier 2. We're at bowl game number 11. It's the Birmingham Bowl. 11-2 Houston versus Auburn at 6-6. There's a good 11-2 Houston team. They lost their first game of the season. They lost their last game here in the American Championship against the Bearcats, who were going bowling. All right, but Clayton Tune is a big reason that they've played well. 68% of 381 yards, 263 yards through the air, 28 passing touchdowns. And for Auburn, listen, they had that heroic finish. They're almost beating out Alabama. If it's not, I think Bo Nix is done for the season, if I'm correct. If he's not playing, it's Tank Bigsby. Give him 30-plus touches and just let this bowling ball of a running back impress here. I'm happy they put Houston in against a Power 6 team. This is I know it's a down year for Auburn, but it's a better year than their record indicates, so I'm happy to see that matchup. How about the Holiday Bowl? First and foremost, playing in San Diego, California. Fantastic destination for a bowl game, but it's 8-4 UCLA versus 9-3 NC State. This is the UCLA, man. They're always just good. They're always just hanging around there. They had that big win against LSU early in the season. How about Greg Dulcich? 42 for 725, 5 touchdowns, and he is a tight end, super athletic, a guy to pay attention to. And of course, you know, I'm throwing Zach Charbonnet in the mix. I'm going to be tweeting out every touchdown, as I always do. And how about a really good, underrated, under-the-radar 9-3 North Carolina State team? Going into this season, I thought they were going to be one of the better teams, one of the more underrated teams. Devin Leary has the offense clicking well, but it's Zonovan Bam Knight, who I absolutely want to see ball out and play his way into day 2 of the NFL draft conversation. Coming in here at number 9, it is the Valero Alamo Bowl. It's 10-2 Oklahoma versus 10-3 Oregon. And yeah, they're all the way down here at 9. I know your blue blood programs, they have high prestige. They're both going through coaching changes. I think they're both kind of a mess right now. They both underperformed this season despite having 20 combined wins. And so I think for Oklahoma, it's going to be the Caleb Williams show. Maybe if Kennedy Brooke opts out, we're going to get to see some Eric Gray finally, which I would really appreciate. And for Oregon, I just hope we get to see Ty Thompson. That's my only comment here. I hope Oregon throws out Ty Thompson. All right, coming in here at the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. Yes, number 8 is the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl because my UTSA Roadrunners meet me coming in at 12-1 against 11-2 San Diego State. This is a powerhouse group of 5 overperforming top 25 type teams here, and I am giving them a shout out in the top 8. Coming in for UTSA, you could go Frank Harris, you could go in a lot of different directions, but it's going to be Sincere McCormick, 299 for 1479 and 15 touchdowns. And on the other side of the ball, let's look for another running back here. It's going to be Greg Bell for the Aztecs, 221 attempts for 997 yards and 8 touchdowns. Up next is the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, kind of an underrated bowl, but usually some good teams go there. It's going to be in Jacksonville, 10-3 Wake Forest versus 8-4 Texas A&M. Look for the wide receivers for Wake Forest. This season, Ja'Cory Roberson and A.T. Perry have 2,200 receiving yards and 22 touchdowns. Now, for Texas A&M, it'd be easy to say Spiller. I think there's a good chance he opts out. So I'm going to go with Devin Akane, 130 attempts for 910 yards and another 24 receptions for 261 yards. 10 combined touchdowns here. Coming in at number 6, an absolutely fantastic name, the Tony the Tiger Bowl. 7-5 Miami versus 7-5 Washington State. I know you're saying to me, why did you put 2 7-5 teams as a number 6 bowl game? These are fun offenses to watch. Tyler Van Dyke has had a fantastic finish to this season. 324 pass attempts, completing 202 of them. 25 touchdowns, over 2,900 passing yards in just 10 games. And then how about Jaden Delora? 220 for 341, 27-57 through the air, 23 touchdowns and just 9 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns this season. For Washington State, lost the top of their coaching staff, like 4 coaches in the middle of the season. And this team just rallied and played well. Jaden Delora has continued to improve. He's kept himself on the field after the off-field issues. Washington State is fun to watch. Miami's offense right now is fun to watch. Miami's defense is bad. Washington State's offense is not strong. We could see a huge scoring here. So I think this one's flying under the radar. It's number 6 here. We're getting into the top 5. By the way, we're still in Tier 2. There's only 2 games for me. Only 2 games in Tier 1. All right, so we're getting to number 5. This is the Rose Bowl. Ohio State versus Utah. For Ohio State, you could go a variety of options. Travion Henderson was a really close option for me, but I'm going to go with JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba because he is going to be this offense next year once Olave and Garrett Wilson, 2 likely first-round picks, go to the NFL. And how about the fact that even with 2 likely first-round picks on the team, he has 80 receptions for 1,259 yards and 6 touchdowns. Absolutely amazing. And how about Utah's quarterback, Cam Rising? It's not going to be the sexiest stat line here, 22-79 and 18 touchdowns, but he commands the offense, man. He's got moxie with the way he plays. He's fun to watch on the sideline. He's fun to watch commanding the offense. So the Rose Bowl is coming in at number 5 here. Coming in at number 4 is the Peach Bowl. It really annoys me that they also called the Peach Bowl kickoff at the beginning of the season. But anyways, it's the Peach Bowl here. Number 10, Michigan State versus number 12, Pittsburgh. I think this is fun. These are 2 teams who have really enticed us throughout the season. I think they both deserve to be at a big bowl game. They both deserve to feel good heading off to the end of the season. If Kenneth Walker plays, it's Heisman snub Kenneth Walker at over 1,600 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns. And for Pitt, I'm going to go with Jordan Addison because I think, it's possible Kenny Pickett doesn't play. So let's go with Jordan Addison here. 93 receptions for 1,479, 7 touchdowns. I swear, Jordan Addison is the quietest 1,500-yard reception season that you've ever seen, especially playing in a Power 5 team that has a future first-round NFL quarterback on it. We're not talking enough about Jordan Addison. I'm contributing. I'm part of the problem, but I'm solving it now. Coming in at number 3 is the Fiesta Bowl, sponsored by PlayStation, coming in at number 3 because I'm a PlayStation guy over Xbox, so they get a nice bump in the sponsorship here. But how about Notre Dame versus Oklahoma State? I got to be honest, I came around on this Notre Dame team. It annoyed me at the beginning of the season, their quarterback play. I really want to see Tyler Buckner play. We've been seeing that intermittent, but I love Kyron Williams. 995 yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. And then Oklahoma State, they were inches away from pushing Cincinnati to potentially be that 4 seed, and they didn't have who I consider to be their best offensive player for that game. That's Jalen Warren. I want to see him back on the field healthy and shredding it up. 237 rushing attempts for 1,134 yards and 11 touchdowns this season, and here we are. We're in the top 2. There's 2 games left, and coming in at number 2 in my absolutely unbiased rankings, definitely not biased, coming in number 2, it is the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Yes, North Carolina 6-6 versus 6-6 South Carolina is the number 2 game. I'm going to give you a legitimate reason, then I'm going to give you a very even more legitimate reason. So the first legitimate reason is the players. Josh Downs, 98 receptions for 1,273 and 8 touchdowns for the Tar Heels this season. I hope we see Sam Howell play in this game. because I think he needs as much bump as he could possibly get. And how about 6-6 South Carolina? How about the Gamecocks, who have Jason Brown, an FCS transfer, coming in from St. Francis, Pennsylvania, and leading them to bowl eligibility after playing part of the season with their graduate assistant coach, made quarterback Zeb Nolan. All right, so this was a consistent bit here on the weekly CFF shows that I did with the NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network, and I'm giving him the shout out. Jason Brown, 60 for 108, 721 yards, 8 touchdowns in 7 games, but here's why. Here's the even more legitimate reason. The Duke's Mayo Bowl has the best social media of any bowl account. You have to go there. It's hilarious, and they have offered, I believe it's $10,000 for the winning team to dump a Gatorade bucket full of Duke's Mayo onto their coach instead of Gatorade. And I really hope that I get to see Mac Brown covered in Duke's Mayo. That's why they're number 2. That is the only reason why they're number 2, but it is a very good reason. And number 1, legitimately, the game I am the most excited to watch is Baylor versus Ole Miss. All right, Baylor versus Ole Miss is going to be so fun. This Baylor team is red hot. Big 12 champions, and they played really, really well. I love Dave Aranda. He got that Oklahoma win. He fought out a tough win against Oklahoma State. Abram Smith, a converted linebacker, 1,429 yards, 12 touchdowns on 232 attempts. Here's what's fun. Baylor is going to be a slow it down, smash the run, and play tight defense. That's the way that they play. Ole Miss, they are a huck-it-chuck-it football team, all right? And they're going to rev it up, especially if Matt Corral does go out there and play. We're going to be looking at a high-scoring offense. So this is offense versus defense. We're going to see how these things come together. This is the Big 12 champion versus the middle SEC team. Is that going to peeve off Baylor that's who they get matched up against? But Ole Miss is one of the most fun teams of this season, so I'm really excited. I think they deserve to be in the Sugar Bowl, absolutely. You know, you could say Matt Corral, you could say Drummond, you can go in a variety of different options. I'm going to go with my guy. All the way through, I've been hyping up Jerry and Ely, and we saw more usage for him towards the end of the season. If Jerry and Ely's on, he's going to be a really fun time. 121 rushing attempts for 705 yards, 5 touchdowns, another 30 receptions for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns. So there you go. That's my bowl preview. It's all 40 teams here. Looking at it from least watchable to most watchable. Drop me a comment. I want to hear your favorite games. I want to hear what you said I put up too high, too low. I appreciate you checking out this episode. As always, I hope you had fun with it because I